Welcome to soapAI Daily, December 5th, 2025. In the last 24 hours, the AI world didn't just move, it split cleanly in two. One half now has compute so cheap it feels like someone left the cheat menu open. The other half is quietly realizing the electricity bill for that cheat menu might bankrupt entire nations. This is not speculation. This is not hype. This is the new fault line, and it was drawn yesterday. Let's walk through exactly how it happened, step by step. Yesterday, Amazon Web Services turned reInvent into the most important hardware event of the decade. Trainium 3 is now real. 4 times the training throughput of Trainium 2, 4 times the memory bandwidth, and, this is the part that actually matters, up to 50% lower cost per token compared to current Nvidia H100 clusters on the same workload. They did not stop at the chip. Graviton 5 processors for general compute. Amazon Nova Sitewise and Premier Foundation models for industrial and creative use cases. And an entirely new category they're calling frontier agents. The first example is Kiro, a system that can write production-grade code autonomously for multiple days without human intervention and without hallucinating. They also confirmed Trainium 4 is already in the labs for 2026 and will be fully CUDA compatible, meaning labs can mix and match Nvidia and AWS silicon without rewriting a line of code. Early numbers from partners, Anthropic, Stability, Databricks, show Llama 405B scale models finishing full training runs in roughly half the previous time and cost. That is not an incremental upgrade. That is a structural earthquake. Every research lab, every startup, every national program that is not already locked into Nvidia just received a phone call they cannot ignore. Some will switch. Some will try to negotiate. Some will simply fall behind. The economics of frontier AI just changed permanently, and most people haven't realized it yet. Inside the major labs, the moves were unusually revealing. OpenAI closed the acquisition of Neptune.ai for an undisclosed sum under $400 million, a defensive play to own more of their training stack while internal alarms are screaming code red over sustained ChatGPT latency spikes that have forced them to pause almost every non-critical project just to keep the service responsive. Behind that urgency sits a debt load that now comfortably exceeds $100 billion across cloud credits and hardware commitments. At the same time, a federal judge in California ordered the handover of 20 million complete user conversation logs as part of an ongoing privacy class action. That is no longer a leak. That is a dam breaking in slow motion. Anthropic, by contrast, shipped Claude Opus 4.5 to internal engineering teams yesterday. 80.9% on SWE Bench verified, 3 times cheaper than Opus 4, and the first model that can genuinely self-improve over multi-day coding sessions with almost no human nudges. Meta stock closed up 4% after announcing their first-ever dividend and another round of metaverse budget cuts. But the European Commission opened a formal antitrust investigation into WhatsApp's new AI policy that could force them to allow third-party models on the platform, a move that would crack open one of the largest private messaging gardens on Earth. Taken together, these are not isolated corporate decisions. They are the opening moves of a very expensive game of musical chairs, and the music is getting faster. On the pure research side, 3 releases actually pushed the frontier in ways the leaderboards won't fully reflect for months. Runway released Gen 4.5, which is now the first system to generate video with native coherent audio, dialogue, sound effects, and music, all in a single pass with perfect lip sync. Mistral published their 3-series open-weight models that outperform closed competitors on multilingual reasoning, advanced mathematics, and long-context code synthesis, while costing literal pennies to run on consumer hardware. And Anthropic's complete internal soul document leaked yesterday, 37 pages detailing exactly how they tune Claude's personality traits, effort parameters, depth versus speed trade-offs, and safety rails. The pattern is no longer subtle. Open source has stopped playing catch-up and started lapping the field on cost, iteration speed, and increasingly on raw capability. Closed labs are responding by making their models cheaper and more iterative, but the gap is no longer measured in months. It's measured in electricity bills. Outside the labs, money and policy drew borders in permanent ink. CoreWeave closed the day at a $41 billion valuation with a $55 billion revenue backlog, almost all of it from OpenAI and Meta fighting for the same GPUs in the same 3 states. The United Nations published its clearest warning yet. After 50 years of global economic convergence, AI is accelerating a new Great Divergence that could permanently lock poorer nations out of the compute economy. Community reaction on X has been brutal but honest. 3 data centers in Virginia, Oregon, and Iceland are quietly deciding the future of human knowledge, while the rest of the planet watches from the outside. That is not hyperbole. That is the current allocation of capital, power, and cooling water. While the labs were busy rewriting economics, the rest of the planet decided to stay completely on brand. France announced mandatory military service is back in 2026. French Zoomers are already Googling how to move to Canada before 2026. A Japanese company fired a guy for being too handsome. Official reason? Distracting female colleagues. Finally, a discrimination lawsuit everyone can get behind. Thai Prime Minister's office called police at 3 a.m. because security cameras caught a ghost. Turned out to be the cleaner wearing the wrong uniform. Tax money well spent. A German town replaced all traffic lights with sausage shapes. The EU fined them 30,000 euros. Mission accomplished. The whole world now knows they exist. And an Australian man just won $400,000 because his pet kangaroo broke his leg. Insurance companies are currently rewriting the entire Act of God clause to include marsupials. Humans, still unbeatable at being completely unhinged. Before you close the tab, one thing to remember from today. The cost of training a frontier model just dropped up to 50%, but only for the people and nations who can already afford the new silicon. That single fact will quietly rewrite every roadmap, every startup pitch, every national AI strategy, and every poor country's future in the next 12 months. Everything else we talked about today? Noise. This is SOAP, AI Daily.